Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everybody, and good afternoon to those in the US, and good night or good evening to those in Liberia. Welcome to Liberia Shall Rise. I am your host, Augustine Sharif, and I'm going to be joined here by Mr. Emmanuel Sapolucia, my good friend and brother. And we will have Dr. Positive joining us here, or the other guys will be coming on. But first, guys, I want to say, it feels like I've been gone for forever, even though it's only been like 1 week. But yeah, it's good to be back on the show. We are going to be having a very good discussion today. We are going to get into, this is just a table talk. So we're going to be chit chatting. We're going to talk about some of the issues that's on our heart as Liberians. And the guys will be here to kind of weigh in to give their opinion as well. So welcome to the show. Let me bring my brother in. I don't know where he is. He's hiding from me somewhere in Houston. Mr. Sapolucia, how you doing, Doc? How you doing
I'm
today?
wonderful. I'm wonderful. Thank you. How's your family? How's your weekend going so far?
Man, happy Easter Sunday to you. Everybody's doing well.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Wish you the same.
Everybody's doing well. We are grateful. Life is ongoing. We got a good reprieve from the snow. No snow this weekend. So
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, but how's Houston City? How you guys doing with
Oh,
your weather?
our weather is very, very nice today. I mean, we got a good sun going on. Place is warm. I think we're around 71 degree today, so it's beautiful. It's nice.
I'm not jealous at all.
Yes.
But yeah, so today we're gonna have a table talk. We have the other guys come and join us. We are going to be talking about what we have seen, what we have witnessed, what social media have actually shown us, and what the major newspapers in the countries have reported. And so we are going to be looking at, I think those who have seen the flyers, we are going to be talking about the fire hazard in the country, the fire danger that we have had in the first 3 months of 2024. It just came to a point. I kind of felt like, man, Liberia is practically on fire.
Oh, yeah.
And so we are going to be looking at some of that. But, like we always do on the show, it's not going to be just focusing just on the fire itself, but the impact that fire can have and some of the challenges it will pose to the country. So we'll be diving into it. But to our viewers, we say continue to share this broadcast. Join us. We have a number here you can actually call to be part of the discussion. If you had experienced it, or if you know someone who experienced the fire, feel free to join us and let's be part of the discussion. I will play our theme song when we come back. Share the broadcast while the song is ongoing. When we come back, we will get right into the discussion this afternoon. Stay tuned and we will be right back.
Oh,
Mr. Sapolicia, let's get the show on the road. Let's get the show on the road. I like to start with the joke that was not supposed to be joke, but it became joke. I think it was on March 4th. March 4th, we had this fire that broke out at a church called Fire for Fire, right? And that was right there at Vamoma. And that Fire for Fire, just it's kind of hard to say because it was a very quick and speedy fire. It started, and before it could be into 5 minutes, I mean, almost structures were down. And before you knew it, the school nearby, everything was, the school was impacted, and the church also was impacted. And everybody started saying, well, it's Fire for Fire ministry. So fire, see fire, fire high.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but yeah. That's why you gotta be careful how you name your things. Because if you name your church Fire for Fire, sometimes the prophecy may come through.
Yeah. So, but I know why that was a joke. That was not the first fire that took place in the country at the beginning of 2024. And so let's talk about the fire. Let's kind of touch base on this thing. What is the big deal? Right now we're not trying to go into the economy, but let's just touch on the fire for now. Let's talk about the fire issue for now. We'll get to the economic impact.
So the fire, I think one of the main contributing factor will have to do with the electricity we have in Liberia. Lack of or thereof, one of those two, right? Because I know there were one of the incidences where they have a candle fire that killed, I think, 5 people.
5.
Yeah, 5 people died.
And people were posting all those pictures on social media, man.
Yes. So 5 people were killed from the candle fire, and the reason that is the lack of electricity causing fire. Because if there is a well applied or well constructed electricity, that person would not be involved in lighting, candle. And then poor installation of electricity is also causing fire, because there was one that happened in Nimakani, in Ganta actually, where they had some I think it's called jungle energy power, where in Ganta, and that one led to a series of fire that destroyed people's businesses, homes, people died in that incident as well. I think that will happen around January 15 or so, and people died in Ganta as well. So it has a lot of underlying factors, but I think the main one is either the lack of or improper installation, or lack of electricity, improper management of electricity, and the on and off or whatever power surge you have over there going on. So I think most of it has to do with electricity.
So I'm so sorry, but I think you actually have a point. You are onto a good point, because not only are you saying that, but even some of the officials, those in charge of electric grid, right, when they were called to answer questions, to talk to people, they were saying, it is the lack of the power surge. People do not have that power surge mechanism in their homes, or they live in their homes and they leave their appliances on. And so when the electricity comes, it just comes with such a force that it ignites, it sparks, sparks and causes all of that trouble.
Yes.
But let's look at infrastructure. Let's look at infrastructure, for example. Let's just go back to the candle fire. Because one of the things I was looking at also is the infrastructure. Like here, for example, right? Again, it is not always a fair comparison. I know someone here is going to say, don't compare America with Liberia. But here, you have zoning laws, for example. Yes. You have where you can build a house, where you can build a business. You have a place where this house cannot be this jammed next to the other house, because you have those zoning laws. Let's look at the Fire for Fire ministry thing that happened. The school is like right there, sandwiched and jammed next to it. So when that fire takes place, not only are you losing one structure, you are losing multiple structure in that particular subdivision. So before you know it, 10 families are homeless. And so what do you think about just the zoning laws? I don't know how strong our zoning laws are in a country where you can only build so much feet from another structure. And so that too is kind of contributing.
So the zoning law, even if it is there, excuse me, like all other laws in Liberia are not being enforced.
Of course.
Okay, it's not being, even if it is there. That is, if it is there. I think it's there. It's on the record. It's on the book, but it is not being enforced, and that is a problem. You know, when you spoke about that, it made me back. I think that was during either the Ellen Johnson administration, no, George Weah administration, because he had to go and build. Happened in Nuclear where and Nuclear and West Point. I've been to West Point. I've been to Nuclear, especially West Point, where the houses. You're talking about zoning. At least when you go to other places, you can see little spaces in between. But I know when I used to go to West Point, that was way back, I think in the 90s, you have 10 houses that you have to pass through. And these are different families, but they are all
But
connected.
you're walking long hallway,
Yeah, through the people. The cooking right here, you're passing through to go to the next house, to the next house, to the next house. So when fire enters the first house, about 50, there's a chance of 50 houses being burned within no time. And most of them are zinc. So you talk about infrastructure and zoning, the material we're using, most of them are easily consumed by fire. And in fact, they can help to ignite the fire. There's zinc, for example. Zinc can ignite fire, right? It's a metal that is not as resistant to fire as you can think about, right?
Especially and then the rusty ones that we have when they get all rusted.
Yeah, they're all rusted. So one fire catches one, and most of them is just the wood, and some of them, the partition of those houses are about using ceiling tack or cartoon or cardboard, right? So these are all oxygen to fire. These are the feeding, the nutrients, let me put it that way. That is the nutrients for fire. So if you put in the fuel in place, when one house catch fire and these houses are all clustered together, you're talking about 20, 15 houses all in one bunch. It just feeds the fire and it keeps going, and people, I mean, unfortunately, people die. We can replace the properties, but we cannot replace the people that go. And that's the unfortunate thing that we have in Liberia. But that zoning law, it needs to be enforced. We need to, especially in the capital cities or in the cities, we need to have this zoning law and giving actual how do you call this thing? Not the worst, but something of a blueprint of how a house should be built. What are the requirements that you should meet to build those houses? So that when we
the safety like you know, you say you cannot use this particular material because it's flammable. Like here, you know, just me trying to work on my basement, the city had to send someone to my house to make sure where electrical lines are going, even where the sockets are going to be placed. They had to send someone to measure those things, and they have to look at the distance, the height. They do all of those things to measure everything. So it is to make sure in case of fire, people can easily get out of the building. In case of fire, this thing is not just going to erupt and explode. Well, you have a lot of different pieces in place to make sure those buildings, actually, they call it codes. You know what I mean? That you are actually within the code per city. The houses they build in Colorado is not the same house they build in Texas. Because based on the weather, based on the area, they have to go by codes.
Yes. We don't have basements yet. You guys got basement all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think those are some of the things. So when you look at infrastructure, we have to put that into consideration, because now, as all of this fire is taking place, the people are scrambling, they are scratching their head. What are we going to do? Well, let's start by the simple thing that we can do. You got city mayors. You got people who are, hopefully city mayors know what they're doing too. But you got people who need to actually be able to put some of these, got lawmakers who can put some of these things in place to make sure that everybody have proper infrastructure when they're building these houses close to each other like that. Yeah, it's very. And then there's another one that happened that really broke my heart. It was right on 19th Street, where again it was another church. And one of the joke again that started going on, people were saying, "Well, these churches, they're not doing the right thing. That's why the fire actually started with them." But we are not just speaking on churches. I mean, there were private homes that got burned, that got destroyed. Like the one you took away, Ganta, they were private homes. But this one on 19th Street. Look, I mean, the video is heartbreaking. I did not want to show the video, but this lady is practically crying and calling fire service. Somebody's calling fire service. And she is crying, and the fire, you can see the progression of the fire from the church to the next house, to the next house, to the next house. And all of this, let's talk about response time. It is the common citizens in that particular video I saw that were picking up buckets They were picking up buckets to actually throw water on the fire. And mind you, it's not like every house has running water. They have to go to the hand pump and pump the water and fill it in the bucket and try to throw it. And so, I mean, I think it was later on there was a fire truck that came in, but this fire truck was not even the government fire truck. And they were doing their best to bring the fire down. So let's look at the government part in this whole fire mitigation, the
And
response
also,
time.
yeah, and that particular stuff you talk about too with the infrastructure, that also comes in. You have walked in the entire Monrovia. Tell me where you have seen in the at the corner of any street where you see a fire hydrant.
Never,
Never.
never seen one. Yeah.
Again, because I remember during the 90s when I was in Liberia, we had a house fire that took place by us. What we were told is the fire truck had to go to, I think, St. Paul Bridge, get water from the fire. Yeah, because they were calling the fire truck from Point 4 Junction, the one that was at Point 4 there. So that fire truck had to go to St. Paul Bridge, get water, put in the truck, and then come to Freeport, going towards Doe community before they can put the fire out. Before they came, the fire has consumed the whole house. That's one point. But I know in the military I did firefighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, if I think we have noticed this. Every time you take a bucket of water and put it on the blazing fire, you are just feeding. You are feeding the fire. You're not really putting the fire off. Okay, that's the reason we use power pressure to push to use water. When you're using water, you got to use the power. It has to be a force to knock the oxygen outside of the fire, right? But if you're taking just a bucket of water and wasting it, you're not really putting the fire out because you have oxygen in the water. It's called H2O. So as you're putting it there, it's just making that fire to blaze more. And that's what happened that particular time. And that's when I started, later on, as a retrospect, when I was doing firefighting, then I started thinking, oh, that's why that house fire, when we're putting more water, the fire just keep blazing. Every time we put water, the fire kept blazing because you're not using a force from the fire hose. If the water is coming from the fire hose without force, it's going to push the fire against whatever surface it is, and it will cause oxygen to be outside of that water, that fire. And that will cause, because you're cutting one of the feeding agent of that fire, from the fire, right? And it will cut it off. Other than that, the bucket water you're wasting, those things are meant for small fire, not a big fire, right?
And
so
you know, I'm so sorry, man. You continue to make a point, but I want to just say one of the things that was so comical, but it was scary. So I'm not even going to say it was comical. It was not funny. It was deadly to the people. While this fire is raging, the 19th Street fire, and burning, I saw a couple of guys that actually came with fire extinguishers. There's little fire extinguishers that you can buy from Home Depot or from Walmart. They came in with those fire extinguishers. How close can you even get to a fire to be able to use an extinguisher before it explodes in your hand and kill you in the process? But they were coming with those fire extinguishers, and it was so sorrowful.
Yeah, so that particular extinguisher, if you do firefighting, that's what they tell you. We call that the trash can firefighting tools. Because that's what it's for. It's for when you have small fire on your stove, you cut that off. But when the fire expands to certain feet, no, you want to back away. That's why the first thing in firefighting, they tell you, especially we who work in the hospital and other places who have been trained, at a certain level or certain size of the fire, you call 911 and get away. If you evacuate your patient, evacuate your patient. But don't try to see and fight a fire that is spreading, right? So the fire extinguisher is for trash can firefighting equipment, right? It's not for a big fire, right? So that would not work, unfortunately. But again, we have to go back to the fire. When you ask for the government, there where the laws have to come in, right? And everything in Liberia required the law. In order for us to meet standard, it has to be set for somebody to meet, right? It's just that your profession. In America, the reason you do your job, there is a standard that is set by the government that say, hey, Mr. Sheriff, you are a mental health worker or you are a social worker. These are the standards we expect you to meet before you can say you are practicing. Absolutely. In Liberia, unfortunately, we don't have those things. For example, I'm in the laboratory field. Here, right now, my laboratory I just completed, I had to register with CAP, I had to register with CLEAR, just to make sure that our laboratory can be used to test patients. I had to do it. If I don't do it, they close it down, even though it's really needed. So now in Liberia, we don't have that. We don't have a regulatory agency that will say, hey, if you don't do X, Y, Z, we're going to shut you down. So we don't have it. So the government has to put the regulation in place or laws in place and set the standard and say, okay, I want the firefighters to fight fire. We can't blame the firefighters, honestly. I won't blame them. Because if the guy responds to fire, he has to go and fill in the truck at another distance to come and fight that fire. Before he comes in, the fire is not going to say, okay, let me wait for you. When you come near, then I will start burning. No. So we should have fire hydrants at least at almost every major intersection or corner street. I mean, street corner.
Yeah. Yeah. And and a country that actually sits right there on the Atlantic Ocean, and you have abundance of chances to get water to be able to do that, especially where this fire was blazing, the beach was right on the other side, right? And you have all of this opportunity. I don't see why fire hydrants cannot be a particular installation in a city. Again, this actually comes back to the city mayor, because the fire department hopefully falls under the city mayor, if I'm not mistaken. Do about jurisdiction, about zones.
So the way you think about city, and I had a chance to meet a city mayor from Liberia who are asking, hey, you got JFK in this place. Why are you guys not doing something? You got this institution in your place. He told me strictly, he said, no, that's not how. The city mayor of Liberia is not the city mayor of Houston. The city mayor of Liberia, your main job is sanitation, to collect dirt from the street and sweep the street. He can't make any decision with
that's for the police. The police does not fall under the city mayor.
No, that's why they say they got city police.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You and our vision about city mayor, the way it's governance here is governance. Sorry, is not the same with Liberia. If you city mayor is not, so you need to go back to the drawing board, because I was thinking, I said, oh, if you're a city mayor, you got this control over businesses, you got control over this thing, none of those things.
I mean, especially emergency response.
Yeah, they are very limited. Power is very limited. It's needed for sweeping and cleaning street.
Wow. And so, but when you look at that, you look at this lack of equipment, and Liberia cannot say, though, we do not have the tangible equipment. There were donations made to the Liberian government. They got fire trucks. They got fire trucks, and they are there. I think they're just collecting dust, and they just sitting there. They retooling the engine every day, but the trucks are there. Yeah. But the one thing that we don't have, though, we don't have them in different sector of the city. Right now I'm just gonna focus on Monrovia. We don't have it. I mean, even though you were saying something.
They have two stations, 1 2.4, one on is that Runner Street.
JJ Ross area there, right?
Yeah,
there.
Runner Street. Right there on Runner Street, and the 0.1 to 0.4. That's the two they have in the entire Monrovia area. And that it might be the only one the guy in Liberia that is functioning.
And so the one right there on Randall Street, I mean, when you are calling, you're right there in the Painesville area, or you're right there on 19th Street, you are actually asking this guy to be able to go that way.
Yeah.
That is, if he even has the water, he has the gas in the truck. Because sometimes, you will hear the horror stories, which I cannot confirm here, but you will hear the horror story of people saying, oh, they call the fire department say there's no gas in the car. You got to put gas in it. And, I mean, I know this is beside the point here, but I got to throw this in. A friend of mine, aunt, just passed away in Liberia. This was in February. This woman, I think she overheated, and she could not breathe, and they called the ambulance. They called the ambulance service, and the people were saying they should actually send them mobile money so they can put gas in the car before they can actually come, because they didn't have gas in it. That woman passed away. By the time the community came together, let's take her to JFK, she passed away. But, I mean, these are some of the systems that we are talking about. These kind of emergency response things. It's the matter of life and death. It is not so much that we want to sit here and disparage the country or talk bad about the country. That's my country. We love the country. We love being there. And it's not like when you put me there today, everything is going to change automatically. But we have to start small and be able to put system in place to make sure that these things work.
Yeah. And that's the system.
Yeah. And another thing I was kind of looking at too, when we look at the equipment, look at infrastructure, look at all of these different things, let's look at the lives that are impacted. Because if you have 10 houses that are destroyed, if you have 5 houses that are destroyed, you
Yeah.
are looking at people being homeless or people going to now live with other people just to make sure they have roof over their head. And so let's talk about the people impact that each fire actually bring to the citizen of the country.
And it is devastating in that we don't have safety net in Liberia. And what I mean is, like unlike here, right? When I'm not trying to compare Liberia with America in any by any means, but in the United States, if there's a fire on an apartment complex and people go homeless, normally there's a shelter that is available. Red Cross will come in.
I mean, yeah,
Other organizations will come in, provide food. The city will come in, provide food, provide your necessity.
yeah,
Right?
they'll provide temporary shelter.
Yeah, provide temporary shelter and then get back on your feet. Unfortunately for us in Liberia, if a house was burned and that family lose their home, there is no insurance. And even if you hear too, insurance will pay. Even though we have insurance in Liberia and some of those homes are insured, even if they are insured, the insurance cannot pay. They don't pay. Okay, they don't pay. So that means that child, if it's a high school or is a school age child, may not go back to school again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So education stops right there. Right. So think about all the homes that we're talking about, because there was another school, there was a school fire also that took place this year too, where 28 children were killed. So that school, once that school was burned, that entire community is out of education. Right? It's out. There's no like so for here, if a school building burned, what to do? They transfer those students
To
to
different districts.
yeah, it's all in different school.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of impact, negative impact that it has on the community when the fire breaks out in Liberia. I'm not saying when fire breaks out in America, it doesn't have negative impact, but there are some safety net that can help people to get back on their feet. Unfortunately, in Liberia, if you don't have somebody in the states that will help you out, or if you don't have relatives in Liberia that will help you out, well, your kids will go hungry, and if you don't have anything, the next thing, starvation, people die. And frustration, if a man, for me, if I have work, if I just put myself in a shoe where I was in Liberia, struggling, selling the wheelbarrow for years and years, and then at this age, I have hustled and built a house, and I got my kids, and that house burned. What's become of me?
You lost pretty much everything.
Lost everything. So the next thing is psychologically, you start declining. Before you know it, some people, if they don't have good mental stability, they commit suicide.
Yeah.
And then the children lose their parent and their home, and then they got almost no future. So it has a huge impact. I know people think it's just a joke, but it is not. It has a very huge impact, not just on that community, but the country at large.
Yeah.
We need to come together as a system to solve those problems.
And you know, I'm glad that you actually point that out. That is really, really amazing, because the people impact, it is so great. Because in a country where, again, livelihood is very hard to come by, you work and you have your little thing, you have your little comfortable house, your little place that you call home. When you lose all of those things, it is gone. It is gone, and you're not going to get insurance that say will come and reimburse you or pay you something back. It is gone. You lost all of that. And then one thing that actually comes to happen, let's say, you know, if it happened to you or myself, and I call you, I say, oh, Mr. Sapolisi, my man, this is what happened. You say, oh, my man, come and stay here for a little bit. By the time I stay there for a little bit, you're ready for me to start making some kind of contribution. I'm not just going to come in. And we Liberians, I got to say this, we are not people who are just, maybe most, but for the Liberians I know, Liberians are people who are very hardworking, who are very determined, and I'm going to use that word prideful in a good way.
Yes.
They have some sort of pride. No Liberian man want to go sit down to his friend's house and say, oh, my man, I would just stay here, and then you bring food, we just eat. No. Not the Liberians that I know. Liberians are very hardworking people. They have a sense of pride. They take pride in working and getting something. So even if your friend came to your rescue and said, oh, man, you and your children, you come and stay with me for a little bit. At some point in time, you start to feel, man, I'm a woman. I'm a man. I need to take care of my family. I don't feel happy here. That alone can actually discourage people.
It does. And let me give a disclaimer on our behalf. We're speaking for our age group. When we say they are prideful, we are speaking of our age group and the older generation. because these days, social media kids, we can't speak much for their for let them kind of represent themselves. Because that's what we grew up to, where men were told a man is responsible for his home, a woman is there to take care of her husband and her children. That's what we grew up to. But social media is not teaching our children different things. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there before somebody come and who are responsible for that.
Yeah, but no, that's a very good point. But no, now that we look at the human impact, we're not even touching the psychological impact. That would me and Quita will touch that one another day. We're not even touching the psychological impact. Because what that does for you, in Liberia, they have this parable to say, if snake bites you before, when you see lizard, you run, right? And
Mhm.
so basically that psychological impact is going to always be there.
Yes.
You home, maybe you feel like, oh, did I turn the copa off? Did I turn the stove off? You drive, it always going to be there. It's going to impact you.
That's another point you brought right there with that cooking. Because right now, and I think when you and I were talking backstage, I talked about the same thing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I saw in Liberia now, and it's a good thing, they are introducing gas, the usage of gas stove. It is not a bad thing. However, the safety training is not being done.
Yeah.
People are not being trained to that, right? And the fire service falls on, I think, Justice Ministry, actually. The fire service falls under Justice Ministry. And I think since, if I just go back to the United States, since the Affordable Care Act, I think 2009, 2010, around there, they took most of the ambulances from the hospitals and assigned them to, especially in the public area, in the government area, they assigned it to the fire department in most of American states. That's what they have done. Because I know when I used to work in the hospital, we used to drive the ambulance, but then they came and took it out and said, "Oh no, the fire service, the fire department is going to take care of that." So more public area, the ambulance are now under the fire department because they teach CPR and they do all the other stuff. So fire safety needs to be a priority in Liberia if you are going to introduce those kind of that form of cooking, right? Get what other countries are using it, because it's just been introduced in Liberia in the last, I think, maybe
I
5
think
years.
2 or 3 years actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it has not been there that long. So get what other countries have been using it, see what they are doing, and then when you're introducing it, you don't have to go to each house. We have everybody on social media. We
I mean,
have
it's a
everybody.
public service announcement on radio. I mean, I
Public
learned
service
out of my
announcement.
information just listening to Flomo making public service.
Yeah, when we're growing up, right? Yeah, when we're growing up, they're talking about washing your hands. They used to demonstrate it, and that's how we used to learn as children. So we can do the same thing in Liberia, especially when we got social media where everybody is now fixated on their cell phone. Those are things we're supposed to be doing as a nation. Educate people how to cook on gas stove. Educate people how to manage the electricity in their house. Those are things that can prevent some of these fires and disasters that are taking place in Liberia.
Yeah, Dr. Positive, welcome to the show, boss. How you doing, sir?
Not bad, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good, good. I know you've been.
Yeah, CEO, you the boss.
Yeah.
I've been watching, I've been listening and sharing for you guys. I think great conversation though. And I don't want to go back to the beginning, but I think you guys are going in the right path. But one thing I know, I don't know if you go in there, Sharif, I just want to add my own little thing there. Looking at the big picture, we can sit here and talk about fire, run, right? I don't know if you guys remember that,
I remember.
thing,
I
but
remember last one. Yeah.
yeah, but if you look in the Liberian budget right now, right, the one that our new government will even be making, we can find out how much the country care about fire, how much the country care about the big picture of solving this problem, if there's any penny allocated for Liberia fire services, right? Besides that, you don't have to look another way again. Who is the um, fire chief of fire for Liberia, and what work funding does he have to do the education you guys are talking about, right? And then at the small level, what are they doing to educate schools? What are they doing to educate hospitals? What are they doing to educate homes, like you guys are saying about this fire? And lastly, I would just put, since Liberia cannot fight fire at the source, maybe we need to mandate that every house, anybody that got a house that you got copper to cook in, or you use candle, or you use generator, you need to have at least a large fire extinguisher.
Oh, they may
Oh,
remove himself. Oh, you
So
remove
yeah,
yourself.
Sherry, you kicking me out the stage, man.
My hand here. I didn't touch anything, boss.
Yeah, so you need to have a large fire extinguisher. In that way, at least when that fire started, like the sad situation that happened years ago when those students got killed in that school, right? Where was the source of the fire? Could it have been turned off with a simple fire extinguisher, right? But nobody know if that was present in the school. And if it was present, even present, did anybody have training on using it? And I would just give my late father credit, right? Uh, we had a fire extinguisher in my house since 1983. When before my father passed away, we had a fire extinguisher in the house, and we used to play with it. Right, we knew how to use it. You understand? So that alone, I know he was concerned about that. So at the even citizen level, everybody have to take the initiative without a government mandate. Everybody have to take the initiative to have one of that in their home, just in case fire break out, that we can start fighting our own fire before the fire truck that can't even get to our houses. How would they get there? I know
Yeah.
you guys talking about fire hydrant in every corner and stuff like that. Go to Soniwen and try to put fire hydrant between all those houses that are close together like that. Where will you decide to put a fire hydrant?
But I mean, basically, I think we are asking the same question, Dr. Pastor. We're asking the same question. Fire education. We're talking about fire mitigation, right? So the fire hydrant thing, it does not have to be in the subdivision. When you and myself driving along the streets, we see this on the street because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
directly connected with the main water line and stuff like that. So I don't have fire hydrant in my subdivision. I don't have it. But the main street here, if we caught fire, those guys, if there's a need be, they will be able to reload before you know it. They will reload before you know it. And so places like Sunny I mean, it's sitting right there on the water. You can have one right there on that football field where we used to go and play our little free time ball and set it right there.
but yeah, let me suggest something though. Let's say since we don't have fire hydrant,
Mhm.
I know we have portable injector, water injector that the fire trucks can have on them. I mean, I know I bought another one that I sent a while back, way back home. But that one, but there are other ones that you can just is a little something that maybe bigger than this cell phone that you attach and just throw it in the water and you turn it on and it will pump water into the truck. So those are all little things that we can do since we cannot afford the fire hydrants in every corner, but you can have each of those on a fire truck and it will help to put in the water. I mean the fire.
I mean, somebody
Yeah.
say you're changing my mind because I want to send you to Liberia so you can help the hospital system. But now I feel like I just found my new fire chief. So,
But
Dr.
again,
Pastor, go ahead.
yeah, so talking about fire chief, right? And then another thing I will add, there are technologies that are improving now, right? So
Sure.
since Liberia, based on the way our country is built, we cannot re-engineer Liberia, Monrovia right now. We're talking about Monrovia, we're not even talking about Lofa, all the places or anywhere yet, right? But Liberia cannot be re-engineered at this point. So we have to look out there and say what technology has been invented that we can use in Liberia. I saw some stuff on Instagram where they have drones actually fighting fire,
Yeah.
right? So Liberian government need to invest in that kind of stuff to say, all right, if we have fire in the middle of, let's look at one of the most popular area in Liberia, maybe
That's
local
fine.
West Point, West Point, where the houses are close together like that. Maybe the fire service should have that drone that they can attach a fire hose to, and that thing can fly and go there, and they have other things that you can just take and shoot it into the house, and it blow up into some kind of particle, and that particle turn the fire up. I don't know the technology name, but we have to hire the right person, the fire chief, Sapolosia in healthcare. We will win more houses when we hire him as a fire chief. So I beg you, I fire him right now before you hire him. You know, so let's not hire somebody.
I didn't apply for it.
Don't even think about it. Don't think about it because we'll fire you right there. How to sign a petition? There are people that are fire chiefs in America. This guy, a Liberian, he's a fire chief, and there's some other Liberians around this country that are fire chief. But even let's say the fire deputy in America can do good for the fire fighting in Liberia, right? A Liberian that is a firefighter in the US, he took the training, he went through everything. That person can serve in Liberia greatly in the capacity of fire chief. So if we cannot find a fire chief here to hire him, we can hire his deputy or his assistant or the director, a supervisor or somewhere, right? Because Liberia fire requires a lot of education and a lot of expertise, because we have to be proactive and say, hey, how do we solve this problem? Even though we cannot, if Liberia decide right now to follow the zoning code, like you were talking about, how many houses are we willing to break down? You understand? Like, even how many houses are we willing to break down to make sure that we can have a fire truck pass to all the community? And then after that, how much money do we have now to put fire hydrant in all those places once we break down all those houses? Then another thing, how much money do we have to put a fire department in every community, in every district? How much money do we have to do that? If the answer is not a lot, we need to re-engineer or sit down and say, all right, what has China invented? What has Russia invented according to fighting fire, or America invented? Let's use those things, like the way we jump from landline phone. All houses in Liberia don't have landline phone, right? But everybody has cell phone because we catapulted and jump ahead of technology. So for firefighting, we can use the same idea and fight fire based on the new technology that have been invented.
So Mr. Sherry, let me ask Dr. Positive a question, because he's trying to compare what we use, the same philosophy or theory we use with cell phone or communication to that of fire, and I don't think that's the route to use, because firefighting, the cell phone communication, we use privatization, and that's what caused it to be that effective. So are you saying we should implement private? Okay, should we privatize the fire department?
Not necessarily, but like I'm saying, it's just a suggestion, right? If we sit down and look at the way our cities are developed right now, right? Let Joe Bwaka, our president, come up and say, all right, because of fire hazard, I'm going to break all the houses that are on the main road in West Point. Let him come up and say that tomorrow and see what kind of riot will happen in Liberia. You understand? So we cannot do that. So what I'm suggesting is, let's look at technology around the world, right? Once we have looked at technology around the world, and then we can pick a technology that we can now use in today's world in Liberia. Like, say, if we buy a drone that can fight fire, or if we buy that robot that can fight fire, right? When the fire happens, we take the robot and send that robot in there, that robot blow off, and that fire get cut off. But how much is that robot? How much money would the Liberian government be willing to put towards that robot? It come back to the budget and the person we hired, right, to fight fire, because this person will make all these great suggestions, right? And now, would the government be willing to pay the money to do what is necessary to fight fire in the 21st century? You understand?
Yeah. So, gentlemen, I think you guys are. I think right now we're asking a lot of questions that we have not provided answers to for now. But one thing we do know that fire is a problem in the country. Because if one house catches on fire, it is very likely another is going to be in line because of the way the houses are built. That is a problem. The beginning of this year, we have seen a lot of fires destroy a lot of people, destroy whether it's their livelihood, whether it is, we see a lot of those issues. So like someone is saying here, we cannot reinvent the wheel. I get it. So we need to start from somewhere where we do know that we have 2 fire stations in Monrovia. I don't know about any other stations in other parts of the country. We do know we have two. We got that across the bridge, there's one. And then on the other side, across the bridge in town, there's one. Randall Street area, there's one. So with those two stations, if they are properly equipped, let's say they start to use the equipment properly. And when I say properly, I'm thinking about if there is a system put in place. Since everybody have a phone in Liberia, and I remember it was, I don't know, maybe a week or so ago, my internet page was just so quiet and beautiful, and my Facebook page was so quiet and beautiful because there was no internet service in Liberia. Not only Liberia, other African countries as well. But that day, my inbox was so peaceful and so quiet, and I didn't have to look at Facebook posts I did not want to see.
No alert.
Yeah, that was it, right? And so, but now everybody have this cell phone. If you are able to broadcast and say, look, here is a centralized number that goes directly to this fire service, that goes directly to the fire department, whether you're using your cell phone, whether you're sending at LTC telecom, you push that number. It can be 5 number, it can be 3 digits. You push that number, it goes directly to the fire station. The fire station is able to respond in time, and you create a special lane where this fire station, fire trucks can get to those places. That will be effective because at least you're using those equipment that we have in the country. Well, right now, the 2 stations that you have in the country, with all the fires we see in the country, I have not seen where a fire department actually responded. I have not seen. Maybe I missed it. But all of you saw all the videos where people are crying. My people, the little boy in the house, the boy down. I didn't want to show the video here because it's very heartbreaking.
Yes, heartbreaking, yes.
Very heartbreaking video. And people, they're literally watching a child roast in the house. And they call in fire department, people taking buckets and try to throw water on this fire. They can't get it. They can't do it. And the whole thing burned down to ashes. Lives are being lost. So instead of asking this question, we should be focusing on what can we do with the equipment we have in the country right now? How are these people even making calls to the fire department? The guy on Randall Street, do we even have people stationed at that fire department that when the phone calls come, you can see them running and getting in that truck and say, we got to go? Is that urgent when the calls come in? We don't know these things. I try my hardest to try to get somebody here who could answer some of those questions for us, but we don't. And so I'm just saying, use what you have. What you have. Let us see what you will do with the 2 stations you have. And then we can say, okay, let's talk about the fire hydrant. Let's talk about all of the other different pieces that we want to put in place. But Liberia, we need to invest. We need to invest in fire, but we cannot keep killing our people with this fire issue. And we have not even touched the economic issue of that. We have not even touched the economic impact, because what that does for me, honestly, guys, I think about this. Each of us here, we want to actually go in Liberia and build our little kitchen. And when I say kitchen, I'm being very, very honest. We want to go to Liberia and build our little kitchen. We want to do it. But are we expected to be there to take care of our own houses in case of fire? What assurance do we have? Will this encourage investors to come to the country if the main store is actually burning down? They call in fire service can show up. Will they come back and reinvest in our country? So there's an economic impact. So Sapalucia, let's talk about the economic impact to the country. This is huge.
No, but it is huge. And that's what when we talk about security, most of the time people think we're just talking about policemen and the army men. No, security cover a whole broad range of a lot of things. And those are some of the security issues. Like I'm building my little Congo. Okay. If I can get an insurance company, because here, God forbid something happen, if anything happened to my house, it's covered. So my insurance can rebuild. They told me, hey, when you sign up for this insurance, this is how many $100,000 you will get. Do you want it? Yes, I signed up for it. And they estimated the market value that, okay, when this time comes, when this happens, this is what we can build your house with. And this is what, if you want to build it yourself, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. Like we're on the other hand, when you have an insurance company, you don't even know what you're signing up for. So you have this insurance company that you don't know because it's not even in detail from what I saw. And then when the time comes to reclaim that, man, you better put on some boots that have real good heel.
It is war.
You will walk, the shoe finish, the tire finish from your car, and you still can't get it. And I think I was sharing my experience with you when I met somebody at one of the insurance company in 2017 when I went over there. She said she has spent 3 years, and every day she goes and sit from morning to evening. So she has to abandon everything she's doing just to seek insurance benefit for her child that was killed in a motor accident. So I mean, these are things. So that economic impact, no company will go invest in Liberia, and what we know, and you and I know this, but we have seen it, where when sometimes there's some demonstration, people go and put the place on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And to do put on fire, if the fire is not, it was put at one end of that area, and the fire response unit or the fire department don't respond in the time to cut it off, and that fire goes and destroy that property, and they don't have the insurance to recover, they're going to leave. Then those people who are living in that community that were having some economic benefit will lose it. So that company is shut down. But even if it's a local, okay, it's a local business. Let's look at the one that happened in Kakata, the clinic that got burned. The clinic that got burned in Kakata. That entire place lost all of those people that was there.
Healthcare, and
Nobody will go back to work because you don't have a clinic anymore. The doctor, the nurses, whoever were working in that area can't go back to work because you don't have a place to work. So they lose. So that's an economic value. These people are losing their daily bread because of that, right? And we can sit here and talk about, like I told you about the business I have in Ganta, the school that was burned. So if a school is burned, remember, teachers were there teaching. You had a principal, you had janitors, you had all the other people that were there. So when the school burned, guess what? Those people are no longer, they are out of job.
The economic impact is huge.
It's huge. So every time we have these things happening, especially under the circumstances we find ourselves in our country where we don't have safety net, I will keep saying that, then we have those dependency. It becomes a dependent problem where now I got to pick up the slack. I was sitting in America who had nothing to do with Liberian government principle or system they didn't put in place. Then I got to start, my brother got to start calling me and say, hey, you know what? My house got burned. Yeah, in fact, a few years ago, one of my brothers said his business got burned. What could I do? You know, I don't know how much he had, but he put in that kind of money that I don't even have sitting here. So the economic impact is substantial, in my opinion.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Pastor.
Yeah, so if you permit me, Sharif, like I'm saying, right, just to show our people what is possible, right? Who in Liberia, let's say hypothetically, who is the fire chief, whether it's a city mayor or whoever in Liberia right now, right? Is sitting down and doing what I just did. Let me just share my screen with you guys, right? Hypothetically, we have fire in Liberia. Look at this fire. Let's just assume this fire catch the Capitol building. You look at the traffic here in Monrovia, right? So even go through traffic in Monrovia is not easy, right?
Yeah.
How much time would the fire department, let's say if the fire department is on Johnson Street and there's traffic, where would the cars even go before the fire truck pass between those cars to come to the Capitol building or the finance ministry or wherever, right? So somebody came up with this technology that said, hey, we may have a situation where you have Liberia that have traffic issue. So this is what they invented. You see where the fire is. I'm just going to scroll through the video so you can see the device they invented, right? Come on. All right, let me talk while the video coming. I think my internet, Sapolosi, and I do something to my internet now.
The guy in witchcraft, he bleeding in witchcraft, work for it. But okay, why Dr. Positive? I hope you also look at the cost of that particular thing you're trying to pull up, because we have to also be realistic as we address these issues too, Dr. Positive. Why it is true we want to find a solution for Liberia, but we have to be realistic when it comes to what Liberia can afford, right?
Sure.
You can bring a drone. Right now, in the current budget that they are about to recast again. Or to
recast again.
Yeah.
Well, budget next week.
Yeah, so they want to increase again. What they put in there for fire service is $2,167,557. So if that drone costs about $1.5 million, you can just count that out.
Your whole budget.
If it costs $500,000, you can count it out. If it costs $50,000, you can count it out, because that $2 million, I can tell you, 75% will go to salary.
That's it.
And what the other one going to drone? No. So yes, I like the ideas that we want to go into the finding a solution in those manner, but we have to be practical, we have to be realistic about it, because can Liberia afford these technologies we want to bring? Right.
Yeah.
That's one thing we have to consider too. But I like a vision. I like Dr. Positive thinking and vision, but I don't think it will work for Liberia at this time.
You know, again, for me, look, man, look, there are countries out here. Dr. Positive is here with me. He got a friend who work at UCLA campus hospital, and that person is willing to donate stuff to JFK Hospital and other places. He just need a proposal, and stuff like that. He was telling me about that. And so there are countries around the world who are just ready to get rid of their old supplies, because while we sit here and we talking about fire truck, I mean, the U.S. technology is advancing when it comes to the fire services and everything else, because wildfire is a big issue in this country as well. And so they are also advancing with a fire. So all of those old equipment, that will be new equipment for Liberia.
That's all new equipment, yes, true.
Waiting to give these supplies.
Yeah.
That countries are willing to give these supplies to a government that they can actually, whether it's a tax benefit for them, whatever it is, they want to ship it over. They can send it. But the problem is the logistics and how you use those equipment. And I forgot to even invite our friend, because the person that Dr. Positive was talking about, he's a fire chief. The guy was a fire chief. He came on our show here before. We talked to him. He's in Maryland and Virginia. He was fire chief, Liberian guy. And we interviewed him in length about fighting fire in Liberia, the EPA. We talk about all of that in Liberia. And actually I thought about him to invite him for the show today. But we need someone who is able to come in the country and put his vision on the table and say, look, these are the things I see. These are the problems we have. This is what we can put in place. And that is what they are to talk about when they talk about fire mitigation. You are not just saying when the fire starts, I'm going to drive. You sit and make a plan. You map out the city.
Exactly. But Sherry, also we have to take into consideration, again, I want us to be practical and realistic about these things. Those, and we're discussing this thing, and I think we have talked about it over and over. Our people in Liberia have to be receptive. They can be willing to collaborate with us. Because you and I can sit here, and because I have tried it have not worked, and I know many other Liberians have tried, have not worked. We can sit here, we have the design, we know how to do it, because we were talking the same thing yesterday. America does not employ a gossip sheriff because they know him from somewhere. They don't employ you because they like you or because you're handsome or whatever. They employ you because of what you know and what they can get from you. That's it. That's the only reason we get jobs in America.
Who know you?
So if we are doing this for this country, our people should be willing to trust us that we'll do the same for them. Right? So they should be willing, even if they're not telling us come and do it, but they should be willing to take our ideas and let us collaborate. Because collaboration is the key to Liberia success. It's not I come and do it for you. No, it's what you got there, what I have, we'll put it together and see what we can do to benefit our country. But the stumbling block have always been the non-reception from our people back home.
And that has to stop. That has to stop. I mean, you have to collaborate with professionals overseas. Look, I mean, I think we all want the very best for our country. We want the very best for Liberia. If that was not the case, we will not be investing in the country the way we are. And we talk about some of these things because we have interest in the country. We have our families living there. We have benefits that we want to do, and we got things that we want to take care of. And our brother Pierre is asking a question: who will be in charge of contacting other countries to get those equipments, the modern equipment? Look, I mean, that is why you have a department. Why you have a department. All of these people, the president is putting in place. The president is bringing a director of this, managing director of that, managing director of this. You need to have an office that is specific to the fire department. That director or whoever that person is, they now will be in charge for making sure they are reaching out to the international communities or different parts of the globe just to get the service that we don't have in the country. That country is willing to give you, but you have to have someone who is able to do the work and not someone who is just able to get the money and walk away. Somebody who can do the work. Gentlemen, it's 2:01. I know Dr. Positive is still fighting on this technology. He's posting something up there that will cost Liberia people $1 million. That's how we used to call it.
Yeah.
There's something there, you know, that technology. I don't even see it yet. So
You never see yet.
yeah, so it's still science fiction for now. That person, if you can talk, don't let me pick on you. Come on and talk to me.
Have you put it on? I
Yeah,
mean, on
you still muted, Chief. You still muted.
Man, I gotta manage my internet, man. Sabolicia did something to my internet not working. So
You're in Liberia. You're in Liberia. That your problem.
yeah. So as you can see, there's an audio to this, right? There's an audio to this. If you look at the beginning here, this guy, they show the fire trucks trying to get to this place,
you
and
gotta go mute your phone. It's still muted. The YouTube is muted.
yeah, I mean, like I said, my internet is having problems. Look, I'm frozen again. I'm frozen again. So
Yeah. So you know what? You know, Sabolicia, let's wrap our show up.
Yeah, everything is my fault. So yeah, Dr. Positive, thank you. I mean, I know I take responsibility for all your misfortune today.
But no, Sabolicia, you know, I mean, I think we touch on this, man. Honestly, the big picture thing here for me, as we close the show now, the big picture thing for me is to see that there is a department, an office. I know we have something sporadic here and there, but there's a dedicated department just catering towards the fire thing. Zoning thing, I'm not gonna touch. That's a whole department to actually kind of focus on. How you build your house, where you build a house, touching that is a different thing. You know, that's a different category. We're not going to touch it today. But you know, the fire in our country, you know, and thank God in the past, the tail end of this month, I have not heard of new fires in the country. But what I do know is this is something that we can certainly all agree on, that the economic impact, it is very tremendous to our people. It set our people back 10 plus years after they have worked so hard to build a little kitchen, a little house, and they lose everything in just 1 hour.
Yes.
It set them back. And this is a problem that if we don't address, it will impede investors coming to the country, because now they look at it as a security concern. Because everybody that's coming to your city or coming to your country, they want to make sure, what does the medical service look like? If I'm sick, can I get treatment in your country? If I need fire service, can I get that service? If I need 911 response for police to show up because I'm having emergency, can I get there? Those are some of the things that people will look into before making that decision to say, look, I will come and invest in your country. Once that safety net is not in place, it makes investment very difficult and things are hard to come by. That's just my takeaway for today. I'm going to end on that note.
Yeah, so Dr. Pastor, they say you've been in and out before your computer freeze again. I think Sherry can give you some chance.
Yeah. Go give you a big picture.
So my big picture, I heard you guys saying in the background that we may not have the money, right? But look at it this way: let's invest in 100 fire truck. One fire truck is $2 to $3 million. Even the fire truck itself, right? So if we can look at a machine like this, a futuristic machine like this, and say, all right, this is a new technology. If we buy 10 fire truck, it's going to cost us $10 million or $20 million. It's better for us to invest that $10 million into this one new technology that, based on the traffic in Monrovia, right? If fire happen right now at the executive mansion, and there's traffic between Jalatan, there's traffic between how you call it, the main road, JFK route, right? Where does the fire truck pass, right? So that can kill our president. They just put it like that, right? So to prevent that, we invest in a new technology that will help us based on our current situation, because Liberia cannot fix our traffic because we have to build multiple roads, right? If we have to do that. So right now, the immediate 2024 investment we have to make in putting fire is look out there. It may not be this equipment. It may not be something more expensive, but there may be some little technology that is out there that some country like India or some of these other developed countries are using to fight fire. So we can invest in those technology and then use it to fight fire in Liberia. But research have to be done. We don't need a fire truck in Liberia right now. I think we need new and innovative technologies that will help us fight fire based on our situations. And if the Liberian government cannot make the research, they can reach out to me. I will do my Google search and I'll find those companies and send it to them. And that's the position I would like to hold. Not Sapolosia, who will just be the medical man. He will look for medical equipment for us. I can help to do this research, and that's my end.
So before I come in, have you ever fought fire before?
Yes, I fought fire.
I was trained.
The man used a little fire extinguisher.
I was trained, and I got license. I had license in the
Let my Maya to show it.
Everybody can show Brema. Everybody can show Brema. So showing Brema, in fact, showing Brema shows that you are equipped to do that job.
But you know what? No, but you know, I was gonna say, you know, that the pastor was making a good point when he said when fire happened in the executive mansion. Anyone that just happened in your hiding, you didn't want people to.
So this is let me give you a quick solution for that. You're talking about one equipment to 10 fire trucks. Take one of those fire trucks and assign it to the executive mansion ground. Put one to Capitol building. Put one to Temple of Justice. Put one to each strategic points so that building is there and that fire truck is there. The fire Mercedes are giving some cassava and cassava coconut and water while you drinking and eating. And when the fire comes, boom, you had the final ministry. You go in there, you cut it off. I mean, almost every government institution in Liberia have had some kind of fire in the last 20 years. The executive mansion had it 2006. The final ministry had it last year. The executive mansion had it again in the back this year. So, I mean, we don't know. But anyway, I don't want to take off our people time. I want to say thank you guys for joining us today. I think it was a wonderful discussion. And yes, in order for us to find a solution to our problem in Liberia, we have to work collaboratively. That is the diaspora Liberians and those in Liberia. We have to work together to find a solution. And then if we want to do, we have to also implement something within Liberia that most countries have done. That is have a research department where if it is fire, it is healthcare, whatever it is, you research, make a planning, put it in front of the government or the entity, whether it's the finance ministry, the police or whoever, and give those research and findings to them, and then we can start implementing those things. I think that's the best way for us to start working towards developing our country. With that, I say thank you and have a wonderful weekend. Turn it over back to Mr.